Financial wellness. Reach out to them for advice at 855-DON-GINO. And now back to your hosts, Don Getling and Gino Franti.
So, Jim, before we took a little break here, what we were talking about is kind of like a very broad economic overview and what's going on in the economy and what we're hearing, right? So I like reports, and I think reports are important, but I want to know what I'm hearing from my clients. You know, what are their fears? What are their excitements? Do they feel like they might lose their job, or do they feel like they're going to get a raise? Do they feel like they're ready to take a little more risk on, or do they feel like they need to be risk averse? And I try to get that feeling from my clients to read the economy rather than the reports, because the reports are, by their nature, they're picking up information of what's already happened, which is what people, and that's the result of how they felt maybe 6, 7, 8 months ago. So in order to kind of foresee the future, I have to find out how people feel today.
Well, I think if they're coming to you, so I guess here's the example. I was contacted by a local reporter a number of years ago and asked about the state of marriage in Santa Clarita. And I'd say, I'm the worst guy in the world to ask that question to, because from where I sit, it's horrible. But then again, an oncologist, just because everybody the oncologist sees has cancer doesn't mean that everybody has cancer.
Right.
So, Gino, you have to recognize that your clients that are shopping for money are hopefully optimistic about the future.
Okay, that's a good point. However, I'm going to throw the caveat in there. I also speak to people that want to refinance.
Sure.
And when you speak to people that want to refinance, they have a completely different set of needs. So what I'm watching for there is, are they looking to consolidate debt? Is the average American, have they indebted themselves again, and they were just waiting till equity rose in order to be able to refinance, cash out, and pay off the debt? And I can tell you that I'm starting to see that again.
Oh yeah, I'd imagine so. I mean, we have what I see, unfortunately, is a very short memory as to economic cycles and exactly how to protect a family. And it's only over the last few years that I've run into a concept that is really unique for me, because it was totally alien to just my mindset and everything. The concept of dying in debt. In other words, you don't have to worry about debt if you're never going to pay it, and your exit strategy is simply to die.
Oh my God, I can't believe I'm about to say this. So I know I'm going to open a can of worms, but many, many years ago, this guy, Donald Trump, said that if you owe the bank $1, you have a problem. If you owe the bank $1 million, they have a problem.
Exactly. The same thing applies. And unfortunately, when I read the reports and I read about average savings that people have, I think the vast majority of the country has that view. Borrow what you can, take care of my needs now, and just kick the can down the road.
The power of bankruptcy, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right. You do have that.
The one reset button Americans have a legal right to. I've exercised it myself, as I said before.
As have I.
It paints a compelling picture. And something, we talked about numbers a second ago, but there was something else that we came across in the PCE index this month that I think is also interesting. So the index rose 0.2% in line with expectations in the month of April. Well, the exact same period of time, personal income rose 0.4%. Personal spending rose 0.5%. So we're making more money, we're feeling good, but we're spending even more than we make. Does this sound like a familiar problem?
God bless America.
Well,
I mean, it's the juice that drives the engine. I mean, unfortunately, we require, for our so-called good times, that dupe in society to overspend.
Yeah, and I mean, but so the question is, everybody's like worried about this, and I'm like, guys, this is what we've done for the last 100 years. What's the problem? I mean, this is how America's grown and survived and become an economic power. So,
either that or we need a war.
Yeah, well, we do that pretty often. We do that pretty regularly, right?
We've also found that, at least the way we've handled them recently, they're not so profitable.
That's true. I mean, I guess in this model, because we've had military, scale back and decrease spending. So you need something that's a bit more of a threat that rallies the public and opens the public coffers. Because remember, here in the United States, we can print money. We can print as much as we could ever need.
Yeah, and that what I brought up, and that's Jim Reape with Reape-Rickett Law Firm joining us today, and I have Rob Schwartz here as well joining me since Don Getling is out and away. And that brings up a good point, because we have utilized wars as a kind of a way to bail out this country and, create expenses, right? It's the, what do you want to call it? It's the most scalable business in the entire United States. The government can enlarge that business anytime it wants to, pretty much.
Exactly.
And so, but then it's hard to say that it hasn't been profitable, because I could tell you that 10 years ago, I didn't have any veterans loans on my plates. It was there was almost no VA loans being done. There was just not a lot. You had the Vietnam vets, and then you didn't have anybody. And so there was not any veterans buying homes. And today, a good 15% of my loan pipeline is a veterans pipeline. So, we've got all these people that have re-entered the workforce. They have readapted to society. They are successful in getting jobs when they come back, and they're buying homes and spending money.
Now, Gino, there's something else that you mentioned. It's a particular person's name, one Donald Trump. And I want to come back to
was going to open a can of worms by saying that.
Well, he is an interesting figure, but
Yeah.
it comes back, it brings everything full circle, the idea of how predictive is the economy. Can we say things are going to get better? Can we say things are going to get worse? And even in the near term, the next 6 months, my answer would be, based on this particular election involving one Donald J. Trump, we can't make that prediction, because so many of the factors, so many of the emotions tied to our economic values are tied to who leads our country, even if that is completely irrelevant in terms of how economic policy is really created. I think the dichotomy between the players is so incredibly wide. The split between the Republican and whoever the Democratic ticket candidate is going to be is a little too terrifying for people to really decide one way or the other how things are going to go.
Well, yeah, no, I can see it. I am still mystified by Trump's, persona and his appearance and his, his base. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I tried to be, open, so that I could at least comprehend and have some type of, intelligent conversation with somebody who's a supporter. But with him, I just don't get it.
Isn't that an odd thing, though? Because I know we're digressing, but it's interesting, because you look at it and you say, why has this individual, who's so odd, for a lack of a better term, right? He's kind of he doesn't fit the mold. He's different, right? He does all these things that are completely different, and gets a lot of shock value out of the things he does. Apparently, that's his. The way he operates, and it always has been. This isn't the new thing.
Oh,
I mean,
of course not. I love it. Recently when it comes out, and he doesn't lose ground on any bad thing that comes out. Like when he was playing his own publicist, a publicist in his earlier days. I don't get it.
So I think the interesting thing when I look at it is going, somehow this oddness that he has made him successful in business, has made him attractive to the media, and now, surprisingly, attractive to a large part of the country.
Yeah, I guess I don't know how successful in business. I mean, this is a man who, I think there is another story about him as he's walking down Fifth Avenue. So this is not, when he says that he can just shoot somebody in the middle of Fifth Avenue and get away with it. I think it was Marla Maples' error. Well, he's walking down the street with Marla Maples, and he sees somebody, panhandling. And he appropriately at the time says, that guy has got a greater net worth than I do. So I don't know how successful of a businessman he is. We haven't seen his tax returns, so we don't know exactly what's going on there. But he appears to have, a lifestyle and a cash flow. I'll give you that much. And I think his popularity has to do with the fact that he is so boldly an outsider. But then again, I guess we don't really remember much from our civics class to understand that a president has limited power. So if he is going to be that far outside the box, we're not going to get anything done.
Yep. So let's see what's going to happen when we come back to the Don and Gino Real Estate and Finance Show. It has gone political. I threw the one word out there, and I was like, oh, just don't say it. But I did. And so when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about economics and, inevitably the presidency.